Hello, 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 and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria. Thank you so much for being here. This is Her Talk Show. I am here with Jennifer, and we're going to be talking all about finding strength after trauma. So get comfortable. We're going to explore the triumphs, the challenges faced by women worldwide. Jennifer is going to be offering some insights, some inspirations, not only to fuel your personal growth, but also your professional growth, right? All of this leaks into each other. It leaks into your relationships. It leaks into your health. It leaks into your bank account. So, really honing in on finding the strength after big T or little t trauma is so important for our long term success. Let's jump in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
All right, if you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed well over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Jennifer Solarte. She's an author, entrepreneur, trauma life coach, Reiki master, and speaker who is passionate about helping women live their best lives after trauma and abuse. She is the founder of the nonprofit organization And Rise, whose mission is to empower women to be the ultimate versions of themselves, no matter their adversities. Girl, it's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
I would like to notate that this is Jennifer's second time on our podcast because we love her so much. She's from my hometown, Chicago.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I shouldn't say it. I think you actually live in the city, right?
I do, yes.
I'm not really allowed to say that. I was suburban. I lived in Schaumburg, but that's what we do.
That's okay. That is what we do.
I went to Chicago. Does that sound?
Yeah, that counts. Plus, I think most people don't know where Schaumburg is, so you have to say Chicago. Otherwise, they will be like, where?
Exactly. That's what we're saying. That's what us suburbians are saying. Well, so excited to have you back, girl. And you and I connected because of our past, a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma in the past. Mm-hmm. And you have decided to go head on into this realm and really give back and help individuals in these situations. When we're talking about healing, I'd love to kind of just sit in this subject for a little while. So many times we go through stuff and then we just kind of like shove it way down, shove it down, stick it inside the closets.
Yep.
And then we end up in relationships, right? We end up at jobs and we're freaking out, flailing out, doing all kinds of stuff. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the importance of healing when you have endured trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. So healing is obviously very important, right? I think that we as people in this society that we live in, we're not taught about like healing and how do you overcome adversity? How do you, deal with a heartbreak or, when somebody has been abusive to you, or how do you even know what abuse is in the first place? A lot of us end up in these situations because we usually come from a household or, an upbringing of some sort where abuse was kind of a normal thing. So then when we become older and we get into romantic relationships or friendships or even jobs, like you said, like it all looks normal to us, right? Because that's always the dysfunction was there. So, hey, this is just the same thing until you start to realize that, hey, wait a minute, I don't think this is normal actually. And then, so where do I go from there? So I always say, I think the first most important thing is to see somebody who's licensed, who does this professionally, like counselor, therapist, psychotherapist, whatever it is. There's tons of different kinds of therapists and counselors out there that can be unique to your specific needs. So, I think it's really important to do your research on what type of therapy that you can go after. And another piece of the healing puzzle is community. Building community is so incredibly important, especially if you've been through trauma and abuse, and especially if you've tried to talk to other people about these things, right? Maybe friends or family. And if they're not healed, they can't help you because they're going to maybe sometimes make you feel worse. Like, oh, you're still talking about that. Why aren't you over that? That happened, when you were 7 years old. Why are you still talking about it? Get over it or just leave them, just all these things that aren't helpful to survivors. So it's really important to be in community with other like-minded people who also care about their journeys, who want to do better, who want to break generational cycles. That way you can encourage each other. And it's not trauma bonding, but it's just sharing stories with each other. And I think the biggest thing is validation. Like when you hear somebody else say like, man, that shouldn't have happened to you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Or the same thing happened to me. And it's like, whoa, because a lot of the times we feel like we're alone in these things and we're sadly not. This happens a lot to a lot of different people. And I just have found that community has been so incredibly healing for me, and especially the women that I work with. They love coming together to just, and a lot of us like know each other's lives a little bit. You start to come to group every week or, start to congregate all the time. And we start to like learn each other's like languages and even like our friends' names and our families' names and things like that. And, healing, I always say, is not easy. It is definitely, it's a choice though. So you can either choose to continue to like live in your dysfunction, wallow in your sorrows, feel bad for yourself, repeat the cycles over and over. You could say, I'm going to do some hard work. I know that it's not going to be easy, but I'm willing to take the risk on myself, because really it's a gift for yourself. And I don't think a lot of people see it that way. I think people just see like, oh, the pain that might be involved and it's going to be hard and it's going to suck to talk about these things and bring things up again that I don't want to face. But that's just like a little tiny piece of it. And once you kind of overcome those obstacles, like those humps, those, things that are like kind of holding you back, then you start to heal and move forward. And then you don't start to hurt. The pain isn't as strong as it was when you first started, and it starts to subside a little bit. And it really is worth the work that goes into it. Is it easy? No, I never say it's easy. And I'm never going to tell anyone it's easy, because it's not. It is a journey. It is long. And it can be hard, but it's so totally worth all the work that goes into it, just like anything in life, right? You have to put effort into something. And I always tell people, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your kids, especially if you have kids, like think about them and the things that you're teaching them or not teaching them, because not making decisions is also a decision, and avoidance is a big trauma response. And I totally get it, because I can be avoidant too sometimes. But yeah, so I would say that those are like the top things that come to my mind when it comes to healing and why it's so important, because it doesn't always hurt. It isn't always going to be painful. It might be for a little bit, but it won't always be there. And the more you talk about these things, the easier it gets. And I remember when I first heard people say that, this was before I started And Rise. This is before I started talking publicly about my abuse. I would hear people say, oh, the more you talk about it, the better you feel. And I used to be like, what the hell are they talking about? That's the stupidest crock of crap I've ever heard in my life. No way. I'm never talking about this stuff, because I had so much guilt and shame around the abuse that happened to me when I was 7 years old by my dad. And I was so like, I don't want anybody to know about this, because they're all going to think like my family's messed up and like everything's messed up in my life. And I just didn't want to be perceived in that way. But then as the more I started talking about it and talking about it and talking about it and healing, I started realizing it wasn't my fault. Why am I feeling guilty and sad and all these things? When I was 7 years old, I was a kid, and the person that did it to me should have been protecting me instead of doing this to me. So I, in my journey, gave that guilt and shame back to him. You're the one, you hold on to that. I don't know why, but he definitely was also narcissistic. So he put in my mind that, and, everybody else that he did it to, that it was our faults, that shouldn't have done this and it wouldn't have happened and that type of stuff, So yeah, so don't forget that. I think that that's something really important in this, is that a lot of the times it's not even our own guilt and shame to hold. It's somebody else's that we took on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I'd love to kind of bring up or kind of come back around to is a situation that I had regarding trauma and not knowing it was trauma, right? So when you're in that situation, you don't even know what's happening to you is abuse of any kind.
Yeah.
And even after I found out that the situation I was in was abusive, it took me like a whole nother 3 to 4 years to really come to terms that the sexual abuse was the sex was abusive, right? Because there's so much confusion around the orgasm, right? If you orgasm, that means that you enjoyed it.
Right.
So therefore it wasn't abuse, right? But after, again, what you're talking about, going through the healing, having conversations, doing programs, linking up with coaches, with therapists, and really breaking all this down and coming to the realization that it was abuse. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about maybe not sex, but just
Right.
in general, like what are some cues to tell us that we might have had trauma, right? That we might have some healing to do. Because people, it's just like life is hard,
Mhm.
right? They're not really like congregating that with like, I need to go get some help or do some healing around certain areas. So,
Right.
what are some of the things that maybe we're doing in everyday life that would lead us to believe, oh, wow, yeah, I need to get this looked at, the reason
Yes.
I'm acting this way? What are some things?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first one that comes to my mind is PTSD is very common with trauma. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that they have that. So a big one that like I know automatically when people tell me that they're having nightmares, it's like a huge sign of PTSD. Um, and another one is like flashbacks, right? Or triggers, if you will, whatever you'd like to call it. That could be another thing. So it could be something traumatic that happened to you a long time ago, and you get this memory, almost this little video playing in your mind of the moment that it happened, and then because this used to happen to me too, and when I'd get those memories, I'd just be like, go away, and I would just push it back down and swallow it and move on with my day. And now I know that that's not the right way. We have to deal with our triggers. There's a reason that that's coming up for you. And that means that it's something to be dealt with. And I always explain it the same way as a physical issue with our body, right? We start to get a stomach ache and it won't go away and it's bothering us over and over. We go and make a doctor appointment, we get it checked out, right? But that doesn't happen when we're getting those memories, like those triggers, when we're feeling sad or bad or angry or whatever. We just like, whatever, I'll be okay, I'll get over it. We don't, maybe I need to see somebody like a mental health professional or something like that. And something else I would say is codependency, which I think a lot of people don't realize that they're codependent, but your dependency on other people, you have a hard time being alone. You don't want to ever be alone. You always have to be around people, or you're kind of like a serial dater. There always is a romantic interest in your life, or something like that. That is also kind of a another sign that you may be codependent, which also could be a trauma response, right? And another thing that could also just be like not even realizing that you're in an unhealthy relationship, right? Like maybe somebody in your life is making you feel bad, right? And every time you're around them, it doesn't feel right. Or before you see them, you feel really anxious, or like,
Mm.
just that, like, I think something else that I've been really focused on the last few months is like body awareness and feeling our body. Sometimes our body knows before even our psyche knows what's going on. So sometimes, like, right, Thanksgiving's coming up, right? Let's use that as an example. You're going to see some family members you're not really too crazy about. So then you start to you start to feel really anxious and nervous, or like you're dreading the day, and then the day of you're there and you're like you're not feeling well. So those are all signs,
Oh,
that
yeah.
your body is giving you, like, hey, these people are not safe, or maybe this environment isn't safe. And we all have the choices to not be around those people. Is it hard to choose that route? Absolutely. I have chosen that route. This will be my second year with not seeing my family, because I had to have boundaries, because I had to choose not to be around certain people based on what I do for a living. I refuse to be around abusers and people who are unhealthy. So, but was it hard? Yes, it still is, but it's also like I am respecting myself, and that comes with so much more value than anything else, than people pleasing and making the family happy and them not being mad at you. None of that really matters to me anymore. It's just like about what's doing right, what's for me, or doing what's right for me, I should say. And that helps you gain power in yourself and self confidence and self love, and it grows so many other things. So, yes, that's part of kind of the healing journey. You may lose people. Actually, you probably will lose a lot of people,
Yeah.
but that's part of the process. And I always say sometimes you lose those people because they weren't meant to be in your journey forever, and that's okay. And sometimes when we don't let those doors close, it blocks our blessings from better people coming in, people who are more aligned with us coming in, because we just want to hold on to those people. And that's also what I was talking about, codependency. We get so stuck on these people, and it has to be them, and it has to be them, that we're blocking in better people from coming in sometimes.
Absolutely. I love that you're saying that
Yeah.
because there's only so much room in
Yes.
anyone's life. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so if you've got a room full already of individuals and they're not good for you, and you're looking around, you're like, "There's no one good, there's no one good." It's because you gotta exit them out. They
Yeah.
gotta leave, or you have to leave and then get into
Yep.
another room, whatever it is,
Yep.
to make room. I love great analogy, great analogy. Um, Something that you were talking about regarding, um when you have to go someplace, one of the things that used to happen to me when I lived with my ex-abuser is he would always sleep in. So I'd wake up at like 6 in the morning, and then
Mm.
he would usually sleep in until like noon. And I would be as quiet as possible, like as quiet as possible, hoping that he would sleep in like forever. And the moment that I would hear him stir, my
Mm.
whole body would just cringe. My stomach would turn. My gut would just be like clenched,
Yeah.
just in fear. And knowing that like there's a 50-50 chance that I'm freaking in trouble for something,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and not knowing he
Yeah.
could wake up in a totally great mood, or it could be the worst nightmare of my life is
Yeah.
happening right now. And I just don't know it.
Right.
Um, and that's part of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, warning signs, as far as am I in an abusive relationship? Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any clues on that, on how
Yeah.
to tell?
Absolutely. So a couple is jealousy is the first one. Healthy relationships are not jealous. It's fine to have a little maybe, oh, I don't like the way she's looking at you type of thing, but like not if it's like you can't go out with that person, or I don't like you having male friends or female friends or whatever, just because I don't like you having them, or because I was cheated on in the past. Like that means you're bringing your junk in from your past relationship into this one, and that's like not okay. So jealousy is a big one, right? Like not giving you space. Healthy relationships also allow you to have other relationships with other people besides your romantic partner. You should be able to have friends. You should be able to see your family. Um, you should be able to grow in your romantic relationship. Like, so that means growing with other people and other relationships, and that's okay. um, Another thing is name calling could be a very big red flag. It might start out as like a little something stupid, right? Maybe calling you stupid. Let's start with that. But then stupid turns into dumbass, and then you start getting sweared at, right? And then they start like, you know, speaking poorly about your character. That's like a huge sign that it will progressively get worse, because verbal abuse can then turn into physical abuse. Uh, Another misconception that people have about abuse, and why people say, oh, why don't you just leave? Because it doesn't always start out abusive. Abuse is very, like well thought out. And so it doesn't start out like that. You get love bomb in the beginning. They love every single thing about you. You're the best thing that ever happened to them. And then slowly, once they know that you have let your guard down, that's when they start with the little like digs, little name calling. And then it progressively gets worse. And then it turns physical. So I think that's something that I wanted to say, because like a lot of people don't know that. People just think like they were abused from day one and you should have known better, you should have left. And that's not how it usually works.
Yeah.
um, what else? Another, I think, like red flag is, what did I say? Name calling, possessiveness, the also like not allowing you to see friends and family, or talking about them, or almost trying to get you to turn against them, right? Like, let's say you have a bestie, Sabrina's my bestie, and then I start dating John, and he's like, I don't know about her, Sabrina seems like she's kind of this and she's kind of that. Why are you friends with her? And then it almost is like making you like almost gaslighting you into why you're friends with these people, or have these relationships with these people, or like trying to get you to turn against your own people, because they want you to believe that they're the only one in your life that loves you and the only one that cares about you. And at first, I think people think that it's great to spend so much time with their significant other, but that could be another big sign, is if they want to spend 24/7 with you and not allow for anybody else to be in that circle. That's another big sign. Again, like healthy relationships are, having other relationships with other people too, not just your significant other. Um, and Another one too is the love bombing, right? Like as soon as they meet you, they're telling you they love you, or they're trying to move in with you or get married like within a week or a month, or 6 months. Every time people tell me that they get into these relationships so quick, I'm like, oh God, please no. I always just hope I hope it was just like real love and that they just, really like were soulmates and found each other. But like a lot of times people want to move quickly because they know they're abusive. They know that they are not great people and they're keeping up this facade until you fall in love with them. And then they know that they can let the mask out once you have fallen in love with them. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to love bombing. If they're starting to also buy you gifts and that love bombing too, they could buy you really expensive presents or want to take trips with you right away. That's another red flag. Like, to spend, like, let's just say you just met somebody a month ago and he wants to take you on a trip to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Like, that's a lot of time to spend with a stranger that you don't know, to be in a completely different place. Like, it's just, it can, I've heard really horrible stories about people doing stuff like that and they end up like getting abused in a different country. Now they're stuck somewhere else. Like, I can't get back, things like that. So I would say that those are the top ones that come to my mind that people miss a lot.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about this whole getting married really fast. I do feel like that is
Yeah.
a big one. And what you're saying as far as like the mask coming out, what that is they know they can only play the good person for so long.
So long.
They
Mm-hmm.
can only hold their temper and their impatience for like so long. They just
Yep.
know that. So they have to get you in, get you signed up real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that they don't have to like bite their tongue, 'cause it's not comfortable for them to be in
Right.
that space. So they need you to just like move along with the contract
Right.
so that they can really brace into who they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
Great, great, great. The thing that I'd like to kind of point out here is all the things that you're talking about here: jealousy, name calling, possessiveness, keeping you away from friends and family, love bombing. These are all things that a lot of people don't necessarily correlate with abuse. When people think of abuse, they think of bruises,
Mm-hmm.
cuts, being thrown around a room, being thrown down a set of stairs.
Yep.
So this is what's called invisible abuse.
Yes.
Yeah, what are the different kinds of invisible abuse? I mean, obviously you've named a
Yeah.
few.
I named a few of them, but yeah, financial abuse can be another one, right? Withholding your entire check from you or not allowing you to work even if you want to, or saying, oh, I want you to just raise the kids and you do, it's going to be great, and then that's just another way of controlling you. I always advise women, I think it's great if your guy wants, or whoever, right, if your partner wants to support you, but you should always have like some money in the bank just in case, or have a part-time. Don't just be completely dependent, just because you never know. And there always has to be like a plan B for us as women. But yeah, so financial abuse can be another one, or even like taking loans out in your name, taking out like bank accounts, like, in your name, other things like people, that happens a lot, using your credit to buy a house or to buy a boat or something in your name, so that's a form of invisible abuse that a lot of people don't know about. Another one is emotional abuse, right? So it can be gaslighting, name calling, again, like keeping you away from people that you love, not allowing you to have relationships with others, not allowing you to have relationships with the opposite sex because they're jealous or they don't allow that. Also, like another one too that I think sometimes people tell you who they are right away, but we tend to overlook. So
Totally.
when somebody tells you that they're very jealous and I don't like my girlfriend to have male friends, that's a huge red flag. He's trying to tell you right now you are not allowed to have any male friends, but in a friendly way. So I think sometimes abusers tell us that they're abusive, but we just are like, oh, whatever. It's not what he meant. We try to, like, I don't know, make excuses, I guess, and because we don't want to believe that people are actually like that. Um, Financial abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, again, name calling, and not even just you. It could be calling your kids names, right? Or talking about people that you love to upset you, because they're going to do anything that they can to upset you. So they'll go even after your pets. If they know that you love your pets so much, they might do something to your pets. People are crazy.
Yeah,
It's a real thing. And I've seen it happen.
totally.
I've seen people steal pets, not because they even like them, just because they know that it's going to hurt the other person so much. So they'll do anything. Another form of invisible abuse too is using the kids, right? So using the kids to kind of go against you. and telling them what kind of a terrible person you are. So now they're turning your kids against you, which can be extremely hurtful, as we know as parents. That's like very, very a deep thing to do. Or also using the court system against you. Maybe they know that you don't have as much money, so they're going to take you for everything you got. They know that you have to hire a lawyer. They know you don't have a lot, so they'll take you to court and keep using the system until you're completely broke and you have nothing left to give. You have no more money to fight, and they just want to deplete you. I've seen that happen a lot. Like that happens a lot more often than we know. The court abuse. So yeah, those are the main ones. And I know I talked a lot about other invisible abuses before this. So
Yeah, it's good. These are the kinds of things that people don't necessarily understand that's happening to them. You know, they don't really see it. They don't understand it.
yeah.
They're wearing those rose-colored glasses,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times they're being told that anything that's happening that's negative is their fault.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm being this way
Gaslighting is
because of
real.
you.
Yeah, or like,
Mhm.
look what you did to now. Look what you made me do. Like, or look what if you wouldn't have done A, I wouldn't have done B. It's your fault. But that's another big red flag. But just remember, everybody is responsible for their own actions. So if they choose to do something back in retaliation, that was a choice. It wasn't your fault. But when you hear it over and over and over and over again that it's your fault, you do start to believe that it's your fault. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, to kind of reiterate what you were talking about earlier regarding triggers, and then to bring that full circle with what we were just talking about with invisible abuse. When I started dating a new man after my abusive ex, a trigger that I had that I didn't know I had was a simple phrase. And the phrase was, "Where are the keys?"
Mm,
Which is like probably said in every household. Where are
right.
the keys? But the reason it was so triggering for me is because the keys being missing with my past abuser was always my fault.
Mm,
Um, and one of the situations that I'll literally never forget, there was 1,000, we were together for 10 years. Like there's 1,000 situations, which is why it became a trigger.
mhm,
But one of the situations that was just so devastating, that just stays with me of just how ridiculous this was, is the keys were missing. Where are the keys? He's not looking for them
mm,
because not his fault. It's always my fault. So I'm
mhm,
frantically looking all over the place for them, all over the place, blah, 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 everywhere. Finally, I'm like, let's look at our clothes from yesterday, right? We were out yesterday. So I check
mhm,
my clothes, they're not there. I check his clothes, they're in his pants,
mm,
right? So first thought, I need to not tell them they were in his pants. Why?
yeah,
Well, because somehow it's gonna be put back on me. I'm gonna
yeah,
need even more because now I'm blaming it on him. I found out that he's wrong or he's bad. So I'm gonna have to lie and say I found him on the desk, or something
right,
stupid, in order to not put the light on him as being irresponsible. But
right,
I'm like, you know what? F this guy. Right? I was getting a little rebellious. We were a few years in. I was tired of getting shit on all the time.
mhm,
So went, didn't say anything. I just said, "Oh, I found him." Then he asked, "Where were they?" Looking to point blame. And I had to make a choice. What was I going to say? And I told him the
mhm,
truth. I said, "They were in your pants." Right away, instead of it being like what a normal person would say, which
yeah,
is, "Oh, sorry about that. Oh, thank you so much for finding those. I just totally forgot."
right,
He goes, "Well, if you would have done laundry,
mm,
you didn't do laundry. Why didn't you do the laundry? You should,"
mhm,
right? So, to the context of what Jennifer is saying here, everything is always your fault. And it's hard to pinpoint it because if everything's your fault, then how are they the one that's being abusive? Right?
right,
I'm the one that's not doing it right. If I would have done it
mhm,
right, then there wouldn't be an issue.
right.
So, it's very hidden. It's very insidious.
Yes,
Is that the word?
absolutely. Yeah, and I went through the same thing too with my last abusive relationship. It was a ton of psychological abuse, and like
Insane.
it got to the point where I was like, man, I really thought I was a bad person. And I
Yeah.
know I'm not. I'm a great person with a great heart, but he started making me think like maybe I am really bad. Like why can't I ever do anything right? And like I'm always upsetting him, and it just must be me. I just really. And then over and over, that was the narrative. There's a new narrative, was that yeah, it's probably me. It's probably me, because like this guy's a freaking god. Like how could he ever do anything wrong? Until finally I clicked one day, and And then I was like, wait, it's not me. I'm fine. I'm doing more than I should be in this relationship. More like,
Absolutely.
I'm doing way more than I should. And he still is never happy. No matter what I do, it's always a fight. No matter what even if it's always his fault or like he's the one that started the fight, it always ends. And that's so that then towards the end, every time we'd be fighting, I'd be like, you're right. It's just my fault. Let's just save us the hours of fighting and just blame me, And I used
Yeah,
to start saying that, and he would get upset that I would say that. But I'm like, no, like I don't want to fight with you for 20 hours again,
totally. That's what they do. Yep.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
berating for hours.
yeah,
So you run a nonprofit called Anne Rise
yeah.
to really help women or individuals? Women?
Women and girls. Yeah.
Women navigate situations like this because, like what we're talking about, it's so confusing.
Mhm.
Love for you to talk a little bit about And Rise.
Yeah. So, And Rise is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to empower women and girls to be the ultimate versions of themselves, no matter their adversities. So, we do offer free mental health services and wraparound support. So, we offer free counseling in Illinois. We offer support groups. We have 8 per week right now, but starting in January, we will have 10 per week because our groups are growing. They're very much needed, and there's a lot of ladies who really love them and find a lot of healing and strength in the groups. And we also do career development services, so we help with resumes and mock interviewing skills. We also have financial education workshops bi-monthly. We do consent culture workshops through Chicago Public Schools, where we work with teen girls and boys and teach them about consent, what it is, what it isn't. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much the gist. We do book club and a ton of different events. We do like, Reiki and sound bath meditation events. We've done like red flag workshops, journaling, all different types of stuff that like are empowering and inspiring for women and girls and to help them in their healing journey to move forward.
Beautiful. I love it. How long have you guys been around?
It'll be 5 years next year. 5 year anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah, very excited about that.
I love it. Very cool. So, how does somebody get in contact with you? How does somebody reach you? How do we connect?
Sure. So if you want to sign up for any of our services, everything can be done through our website. So our website is www.womenrisechicago.org. You can also reach me directly, Jennifer at womenrisechicago.org, or feel free to follow us on social media. We're on everything: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I think our handles are and_rise_, and on IG it's and_rise__.
Totally. That's great. I love it. For those of you listening live, for those of you listening on the replay who are really resonating with Jennifer and all the goodness that she's sharing today, make sure you check her out. Facebook, Insta, predominantly her website, womenrisechicago.org. It is in a clickable link in the description below, wherever you are watching us at. Jennifer, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that your past is just a little tiny part of your story. It's not the entire story.
Yeah.
It doesn't define you. I am not my sexual abuse. I'm not my domestic abuse. I'm not the things that happened to me. Those are just parts of my story, and I'm creating my story. And, I know I didn't really get to talk about my story today, but like I come from a ton of like trauma, ton of downfalls. I was a single broke mom for a really long time, and I've built myself up to a very successful entrepreneur, and I live a very fulfilling life because I've done a lot of hard work. So I just want to remind everyone that you can change your life. It can get better. You can live a happy and fulfilling life again after trauma and abuse. You will have to put the work in, but it's so worth it. The other side of healing is absolutely beautiful, and it's totally worth the work that goes into it. And so like I said, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your kids and help break those generational cycles so that it doesn't continue to happen over and over and over again. And that's the best gift you can ever give to anybody, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying is true. When you're coming from that, your kids are being raised in that. That's what they know. That's what you're
Yep.
teaching them. So the probability of them falling into something similar is very high.
Yes.
So, yeah, 100% really leaning into an organization like Jessica's womenrisechicago.org. to really help you navigate that. This way, your children aren't repeating the same exact story that that you went through.
Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being here. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much for all the value that you gave regarding what this looks like. I think that there's so much secrecy around what this is, what this looks like, what this sounds like. And I think a lot of it comes from what you kind of opened up with, where you were like, listen, all this freaking shit happened to me in my childhood or my early years. And I don't want to talk about this shit. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to dissect it. I don't want to look at it. It's embarrassing. It makes me cry. It makes me uncomfortable. Who cares? And I think there's a lot of people in situations like that. And because of that, there's that generational thing that just keeps happening over and over again because there's no healing. So getting involved with an organization like Jessica's will start that healing process for you so that you can become the cycle breaker, the person who breaks the cycle of abuse so that your children can skip that part.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's already enough. We don't have to add that one.
Yes.
There's already enough that's just like flailing us around like rag dolls.
Right.
We can skip that one. Well, this has been great, Jennifer. I so appreciate you being here. For those of you listening live, for those of you listening on the replay, make sure you check out her stuff. Make sure you follow, like, and share this video. This is how individuals like Jennifer, who are working on getting into the hands of the people that need her organization and her. This is how we spread the word. So make sure you follow, like, and share. Once again, my name is Sabrina. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation Global, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way by having conversations just like this one.